Hello, dear friends. Patrick here, Monday, September the 8th, 2025. I want to do a quick blurb on this organization called the Canadian Council of Churches. Apparently the largest representative Christian organization representing 26 different member churches all across Canada. They have 3,305 followers on their X account, their Twitter account, as of last time I checked this morning. And this organization didn't mention a word about the Jesus March that occurred in Toronto on September the 6th, Saturday, this past Saturday. They didn't mention anything about that to their followers. They are derelict in their duty in communicating any Christian news to Canadians. The last time they made a post was in June 25th, and they made a statement about a tragedy that occurred in the Middle East, and it was a political statement. And it was an encouraging statement about something important, a tragedy that occurred, and how they were praying for those people that were involved in that area of the world. It was very unfortunate, and it was a good letter that was written by their chief, blah, blah, blah. What's his name? Peter Noteboom. Last time I saw him preach, he said that he was trying to come to terms with his whiteness. That was interesting. They are a woke organization, a social justice organization. Their goals and focus are on things like anti-racism and climate justice. I'd like to just bring to your attention how much money they brought in as an organization in their last published statements. I don't know if that was for 2023 or 2024, I'm not sure. They brought in over $500 million in revenue. $500 million in revenue from their member churches, from donations, from government grants, what have you, over $500 million. Well, guess how much they spent in salaries? Salaries, administration, I believe is the category, over $500 million. So they're bringing in $500 million a year, and they're spending $500 million a year on salaries. Salaries and administration. And then there's another category, which is like administration, the same thing, that brings the numbers to almost the exact same amount of money that they're bringing in. They have a staff of 10 people. They have an executive staff of probably about 10 people as well. So do the math on that. You can't spend $500 million on a staff of 20 people. You could have 5,000 people on staff for that amount of money. So something's not adding up. Oh, well, this is spent on this and this, hiring that person to do that, hiring that. Show it in your annual report. Break it down. I don't see it. And that is publicly information that is available on their website. I would encourage you to go and investigate the Canadian Council of Churches. Check out their Twitter page. Check out their website. Look at some of their policies and what they're focused on. And you know, it's funny because these organizations like the Canadian Council of Churches, who are derelict in their duty to communicating Christian news to Canadians, all of a sudden, they are going to get political because they're not interested in Canadian politics. They don't want to support Canadian politics. They want to support the politics of the people that are coming into the country. That's more important for them than what's happening in Canada. They are against Canadian nationalism. They'll support nationalism of other countries in other parts of the world, but they won't support Canadian nationalism. They consider that sinful because that goes against the social justice agenda. It goes against the woke agenda, right? Anything to do with promoting Canadian interests are opposite to what they want to promote. They only are interested in supporting the interests of the foreigner, the person that's coming from another place. They want to support those persons' interests. They don't want to support anything to do with European white culture. Their policy is anti-racism. So if your background is a Irish, English, Caucasian Canadian, they are against you. They openly are against your interests. And that is public information that is available on their website. They don't want to support that by default because they're only supporting this group. They say, oh, well, they're not saying that overtly. Errors of omission, they're saying it without having to say it. Read between the lines. Take a look at their website and see exactly what they represent. And you'll see what they represent. Climate justice is important to them. Climate justice. Look up what their definition of climate justice is and who that affects and how they want to address that, how they want to support that. So this is an interesting organization that is supposed to be representing Christians in Canada, and they don't. Who do they represent? They represent themselves. They have their own version of morality. They have their own social gospel, their own version of the gospel, what they want to emphasize on, who they want to accept, and who they want to support and promote. And you can see it all laid out on their website. And it's not in the interest of the majority of Canadians. You got 20 million Canadians in Canada, and they have 3,300 followers on their Twitter page. What does that tell you? It tells you that they're derelict in their duty to connecting to Canadians. That's not part of their mandate, is to communicate and lift up Jesus to their membership. They're more interested in their social justice policies than they are in communicating to Canadians, encouraging Canadians, telling them about a Jesus parade that might occur in their city, like what we just saw in Toronto. And I bet most of the people watching this have never heard of that parade either, because it's not advertised in the anti-Christian media. It's not advertised in these anti-Christian organizations like the Canadian Council of Churches, like the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada, that are against Christians. Oh, they're not against Christians, you're exaggerating. That's right, I'm exaggerating because I want to get your attention. But am I exaggerating? When they won't announce a Jesus parade, but they will announce how important this article is on the history of the social gospel, and they'll announce that they're bringing in $500 million in revenue and spending $500 million on salaries, with no shame that they're announcing that. Oh, but when the Canadian government makes an announcement that they want to remove the charitable status of any organization that includes the promotion of religious interests, which would include themselves, all of a sudden they get off their butts and write a letter to Dominic LeBlanc, the Minister of Finance, saying, oh, we want to oppose this. We want to oppose this. Well, you're a little late. You don't represent 20 million Canadians. You represent 3,000 Canadians, and you represent yourselves, because that's what you spend all your money on. You get all this money and you congratulate yourselves, give yourselves fancy titles. This Peter Notenboom guy, he's listed on the website, is the Emeritus Foundational President ex nihilo, or whatever the heck his title is. And then they announce on their Twitter page that he's getting this award, the Lutheran Award for Global blah, 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 whatever that is. Give me a break. Talk about self-congratulating yourself for doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely derelict in their duty to serving Canadian Christians. 20 million Christians in Canada have no political voice. They don't want to be involved in politics. The only time they're willing to mention politics is when it affects their paycheck, when it's going to affect their taxable status. Christians in Canada should be absolutely ashamed of these two organizations, the Canadian Council of Churches and the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong if I'm exaggerating. Tell me what they're doing to communicate the good news to Canadians and encourage them about a parade on last Saturday. Show me where they announced it to Canadians, saying, hey, if you want to come celebrate, there's a great public organization going on. We're going to lift up the name of Jesus. We're going to announce him to the world. We're going to have open prayers that everybody can join in. All denominations are welcome to come and celebrate Jesus in our largest Canadian city. Show me where they announced that. Because they didn't. And they should be ashamed of themselves for not announcing that important event that occurred. And if I hadn't heard it from my non-believer friend, I never would have known that it occurred. This past Saturday, they had a parade to celebrate Jesus, and it was never communicated to Christians in Canada. 20 million Christians in Canada without a voice. No political voice, no communication voice. It's sad. Thanks for watching. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.